Well, let's get going this morning. Trustee Kistner, we were starting with the Program Management Committee meeting this morning.
Okay, I'm ready. So, good morning, everyone. This is the 273rd meeting of the Program Management Committee for Tuesday, December 2nd, 2025. Can we get a roll call?
Yes, the record will reflect that Trustee Wilson is present in the room and all other trustees are present online.
All right. We have committee minutes from our November 4th, 2025 meeting. Can we get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All right. There are no objections. They're approved. There are no comments by the chair, so we're ready for our engineering department agenda items.
Good morning, trustees. Our first three items today are our annual appropriations for our green infrastructure program. First one's the CSO volume reduction green infrastructure. The work to be done consists of construction of green infrastructure facilities at various locations in the city of St. Louis and parts of St. Louis County. The purpose of work is to reduce combined sewer overflows to the Mississippi River within the Bissell watershed per the long-term control plan and consent decree. This appropriation will fund the rainscaping program, including reimbursement for green infrastructure components on large grants, annual call program, large grants part of our development review projects, and small grants program, the demolition of vacant buildings in the city of St. Louis, and MSD direct green infrastructure projects. Our appropriation of $5 million will result in a total appropriation to date of $75,200,000 towards MSD goal of $100 million for green infrastructure over the life of the consent decree. Second item is the CSO volume reduction green infrastructure for the River to Pear watershed. The work consists of the construction of green infrastructure facilities at various locations in the city of St. Louis and parts of St. Louis County. Again, the purpose of the work is to reduce combined sewer overflows to River to Pear within the Lime watershed per the long-term control plan and consent decree. The appropriation will fund rainscaping programs, including reimbursement for green infrastructure components on large grants and small grant program. This appropriation of $1,500,000 results in a total appropriation to date of $18,500,000 towards MSD's goal of $20 million for green infrastructure improvements over the life of the consent decree. The next item is the stormwater quality green infrastructure, the small grants program. This action appropriates additional funds and authorizes staff to amend an interagency agreement with the Missouri Botanical Garden. The ordinance appropriates additional funds and authorizes staff to amend agreement with Missouri Botanical Garden for the purpose of the St. Louis County Phase 2 Stormwater Management Plan is to improve area water quality by preventing harmful pollutants from being carried into stormwater runoff into local bodies. The purpose of stormwater quality rainscaping small grants program is to encourage individual landowners to implement green infrastructure, aka rainscaping, techniques on their property to address water quality for stormwater runoff. To maximize the effectiveness of stormwater grant program in education and promotion, MSD and the garden will develop a detailed scope and reimbursement amount on an annual basis. Of the $200,000 appropriated for this small grant program, Missouri Botanical Garden is requesting approximately $50,288 for the administration of the program. Are there any questions on that? We, at the end of each year, we're required to complete a report for EPA and DNR as part of the consent decree. So once that report is complete at the end of calendar year 25, at a future program management meeting, I'll be presenting more details on all the results of the green infrastructure program to date, which will include the dollars spent, the number of facilities we've completed and the amount of runoff that we've captured.
Rich, this might be, I'm having a problem seeing the agenda and accessing it in my from my email. I know I opened it before, but can somebody help me there?
Wendy is on top of it. She's getting the document sent to you now.
Okay. Yeah, it just doesn't, the laser quiche doesn't open.
Do you want me to wait?
No. I do want to. I do want to ask a quick question about that. This appropriation, this program. So did I hear you correctly that this is a St. Louis? We're putting money in St. Louis County through the botanical garden.
Yeah, we have the district. We have a district-wide MS4 stormwater quality program to reduce pollutants to the streams in St. Louis County. We have a MS4 permit is what it's called. It includes us and 55 separate municipalities. It's renewed every 5 years, just like a treatment plant permit. And part of that, there's components, one, both to improve water quality, but two, for public education. So when we started the green infrastructure grant in the combined sewer area that was required by the consent decree, we also started the program with Missouri Botanical Garden for the education and to implement the small grant program. And then we also have then dollars set aside for folks that are in the separate area that want to take advantage of the green infrastructure program. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, I think it's great. I'm glad that we're working with the botanical garden and
it's been very successful. That's why I wanted to mention that I'm going to come back to you all with a detailed report, because I think the numbers is, I seem to sign a lot of small grants, so there's a lot of small rain gardens being built, which is very beneficial to the district.
Cool. Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, Wendy, by the way.
All right, the next four items are our annual appropriations for stormwater grants. The first three are from OMCI for the OMCI reimbursement programs. For the three OMCIs that were kept, we will continue to tax strictly for grants, and then for the new stormwater municipality grant program. The first one is for the Deer Creek's OMCI reimbursement program. Appropriation will fund and authorize the district to enter into intergovernmental agreements with municipalities where revenue is collected in the Deer Creek OMCI in St. Louis County. The Deer Creek OMCI reimbursement program allocates as a grant all the OMCI revenue generated in each municipality back to the municipalities for eligible stormwater expenditures. Eligible stormwater expenditures may include the following: stormwater planning or engineering design, construction of stormwater sewers and inlets, stream bank stabilization and erosion control, drainage system improvements, flood property buyouts or floodproofing measures, restoration or flow of storage capacity under bridges or within detention basins, flood wall and levee improvements, removal of impervious surfaces related to the flooding or erosion problems, or stormwater-related activities approved by MSD prior to address drainage, flooding, or erosion issues. Funding cannot be used for MS4 compliance activities, routine maintenance, or staffing costs. There will be a total of $1,078,393 allocated to 21 separate municipalities within the Deer Creek OMCI area. The next one is the Sugar Creek OMCI reimbursement. This action appropriates funds and authorizes staff to enter into intergovernmental agreements with municipalities where revenue is collected by the Sugar Creek OMCI within St. Louis County, Missouri. The Sugar Creek OMCI reimbursement allocates as a grant all the OMCI revenue generated in each municipality back to the municipality for eligible stormwater expenditures. I'm not going to repeat the overall eligible stormwater expenditures, the long list that I provided before, but it's the same as it was for the Deer Creek. The municipalities and portion of the OMCI revenue to each of them is available for grant under this reimbursement. There are 2 municipalities and an allocation of St. Louis County for a total appropriation of $80,372 available to those municipalities in the county. The next one is the University City OMCI reimbursement program. This action appropriates funds and authorizes staff to enter into intergovernmental agreements with municipalities where revenue is collected within the University City OMCI within St. Louis County. The University City OMCI reimbursement program allocates all the OMCI revenues in each municipality back to the municipalities for eligible stormwater expenditures. The municipalities and a portion of the OMCI revenue allocated to each of them is available for grant under this reimbursement. There are a total of 13 municipalities in St. Louis County which will share the appropriation of $270,308. And finally, the new Stormwater Municipality Reimbursement Program. This action will appropriate funds and authorize staff to enter into intergovernmental agreements with municipalities, St. Louis City, and St. Louis County where revenue is collected by the Stormwater Capital Fund. The district's 2023 rate proposal to the Rate Commission included a provision for a new Stormwater Capital Fund to be submitted to voters for consideration. This fund was expected to raise approximately $34 million annually to address flooding and erosion throughout the district. One part of this proposal was a 30% allocation, or approximately $10,200,000 annually, for a municipal reimbursement program to aid localities in addressing local flooding and erosion priorities. The Rate Commission agreed with this approach, and the fund was approved by voters in a district-wide election held April 2024. Eligible stormwater expenditures may include the following: stormwater planning, engineering design, construction of stormwater sewers and inlets, stream bank stabilization and erosion control, drainage system improvements, flood property buyouts and floodproofing measures, restoration of flow or storage capacity under bridges or within detention basins, flood wall and levee improvements, removal of impervious surfaces related to flooding or erosion problems, other stormwater-related activities approved by MSD to address drainage, flooding, and erosion issues. Funding cannot be used for MS4 compliance activities, routine maintenance, or staffing costs. Exhibit MSD 91 of the rate proceedings detailed the allocation to each eligible grant participant. Since that time, one small municipality, Glen Echo Park, has since dissolved. Their former $30,000 allocation will be held as contingency funding. The recipients of this portion of the revenue allocated to each of them is available for grant. So we have a total of 87 municipalities plus St. Louis City and St. Louis County, which will share in the revenue of $10,200,000. In the program, as you recall in the past, we've brought each individual grant to the board for approval. That if it was over $50,000, we're restructuring the program slightly, so we're not seeing hundreds of individual agreements brought to the board for these appropriation. So what we're going to do as part of this program is we'll enter a single agreement with all the municipalities to receive the grant or the reimbursements for the projects. All projects do go through the MSD plan review. In other words, the municipality has to submit that project for review and approval through our plan review, and once that project's completed, they're reimbursed for that project. And so the plan is each year when I appropriate these dollars, I'll give you a detailed report that shows all the grants issued throughout the year, the municipality that received the grant, and the project and the type of project that it is. That's our plan for these, just to avoid hundreds of projects coming to the board.
So real quick, will we approve those beforehand or after? So we'll approve the appropriation, and then you guys will determine how it gets spent, and then you'll come back and report that it's been spent appropriately.
Correct.
Okay. And how much money are we talking about total?
The three OMCI, we have the three OMCIs that are continuing, so it's approximately 11 million total. And I can, if you feel necessary, I can do more excuse me, can't speak this morning. More periodic reporting if you would like that.
I don't know. I think it's. I don't know. It's for the rest of the board to determine. It just seems. I mean, I understand why we're doing it, or why you're suggesting we do it. I just want to make sure we're all comfortable with it.
Here's what I'll do. I ask my staff, we're putting together what the report's going to look like based on past OMCI grants, had them put together a sample. I'll bring that sample and present it to the board, and then you guys can look at it and see if it's detailed enough that you'd be okay seeing it on an annual basis. Does that work?
Yeah, for me. I don't know. And are we okay, Todd, from a legal standpoint of approving an expenditure sort of?
The lawyers were the
en
first
masse?
people we went to, so.
Yes, Trustee Wabi, we did look at that from a legal standpoint and believe that we are on solid ground to handle it that way.
Cool. I have no further questions.
All right, thank you. Next item is a stormwater small capital project construction. This action appropriates funds for small stormwater capital improvement projects to be bid through purchasing. The work to be done consists of the construction of small stormwater capital projects to address minor flooding and erosion issues as identified by the engineering department at various locations throughout the district. This appropriation of $500,000 will address stormwater problems as they are identified. As projects are identified, contractors will be hired by the rules of purchasing ordinance as part of the current small contractor program, where projects are limited to a maximum of $50,000. Staff will periodically update the board of the status of the appropriation. This is very similar to our infrastructure repair projects that are under $50,000. As we go through the $700 million of needed projects throughout the district, as we develop solutions, we're finding that some of these we're able to take care of stormwater, flooding, and erosion issues with just a small project. It might be an inlet or two, maybe some additional grading that's under $50,000. And we're seeing a reduction in the number of infrastructure repairs that's been in place for over 10 years or like almost 15 years now. So this dovetails nicely to keep that program up and running with the number of contractors we have. All right. The following 7 items are new engineering design or supplemental appropriations to current engineering design and support contracts for funding in the fiscal year 2026 and 27. The first one is South 2nd Street 3300 combined sewer repair. This action appropriates funds and authorizes staff to enter into a design contract with Stantec Consulting Services for the design of this project. The project consists of the design and preparation of construction documents to rehabilitate replace approximately 735 linear feet of existing 30-inch by 42-inch combined sewer become deteriorated and is located under an industrial building on 2nd Street. The second project is the North First project, consists of rehabilitation or replacing of 204 linear feet of 36-inch RCP that is connected to the South Tunnel Trunk Interceptor Sewer. The purpose of these projects is to extend the useful life of the combined sewers to prevent building backups and increase flood protection. The construction cost for these projects is approximately $5 million, and they're anticipated to begin construction in fiscal year 2029. The district reviewed 2 other proposals considered on this project. The appropriation of $800,000 for design services is equal to that proposed within the CRP budget, and we do plan future appropriations for this design contract. Stantec is committed to 18.78 minority participation and 13.69 women participation, which complies with our 18% and 13% goals respectively. Next item is the General Service Agreement Facility and Sewer Design Contract A. Appropriates funds and authorized staff to enter a design contract for 1 year with 1 option year with Crawford, Murphy, and Tilley for the design of various projects in the CRP and operations budget. The project consists of design of treatment plant process, equipment upgrades, pump station modifications, electrical upgrades, force main and gravity sewer repairs, building improvements, structural analysis, concrete repairs, and SCADA fiber network upgrades as needed throughout the district in support of the ongoing internal design effort. This contract is for a total maximum amount of $600,000. Projects will be issued on a letter agreement per individual scopes of services. This contract too, there were 2 other proposals considered. Crawford, Murphy, and Tilley was selected. The appropriation of $600,000 is equal to that presented in the budget supplement. CMT has committed to 18% minority participation and 13% women participation, equivalent to what's shown for the 3 firms listed, which meets our goals. Next one is General Service Agreement Facility and Sewer Contract B. This action appropriates funds and authorizes staff to enter a design contract. This appropriation authorized the district to enter a contract for 1 year with 1 option year with GHD for planning assistance for various projects in the CRP and operations budget. This project consists of condition assessment and remaining useful life for small sanitary combined sewer and treatment plant projects as needed throughout the district in support of the ongoing planning effort. This contract is for a maximum amount of $500,000. There were a total of 2 other proposals considered for the project. The next 2 items are new consultant services for stormwater projects for the upcoming years. First one is the General Service Agreement Stormwater Capital Project Design Contract A. It appropriates funds and authorized staff to enter a design contract with Intuition and Logic for the design of projects throughout the district. This project consists of the design and preparation of construction documents for multiple stormwater projects, stream bank stabilization improvements. This contract consists of 6 potential sewer projects. The purpose of this project is to solve stormwater flooding and erosion. The construction cost estimate for the projects being designed is just under $4 million, and construction is anticipated to start fiscal year 2028. The projects are the Sun Valley Creek Bank Stabilization, the Baja Court Bank Stabilization, Evergreen Forest and Birch Forest Bank Stabilization, DePere Avenue Creek Bank Stabilization, 52 High Valley Drive Sanitary Protection Bank Stabilization, and the Kinswood Sanitary Protection Project. There were 2 other proposals considered for this project. The appropriation for design services equal to that proposed in the budget, and proposed funding in the CRP budget supplement. Intuition and Logic is committed to 20% minority and 15% women participation, sub-consultant participation, which exceeds our goals of 18% minority and 13% women. The second of two stormwater designs is Stormwater Capital Projects Contract B. It appropriates funds and authorizes staff to enter a design contract with HR Green. The project consists of the design and preparation construction documents for multiple stormwater infrastructure improvements. This design contract consists of 4 potential sewer projects. Purpose of this project is to stop stormwater flooding and erosion problems. The construction cost estimate for these 4 projects is approximately $2.4 million. Construction is anticipated to begin in fiscal year 2028. The 4 projects are the St. Andrews Place and St. Mary's Lane storm sewer, the Trowbridge Road storm improvements, Lorna and Dennis storm sewer, and the Monte Carlo storm improvements. There were 2 other proposals considered. The appropriation for design services of $1 million is equal to what was proposed in the budget CRP. HR Green is committed to 19.31% minority participation and 14.53% women participation, which exceeds our 18% and 13% goals. The next item is the general
Rich?
service.
Hey, Rich.
Yeah.
Can we go back to the last 2? It strikes me that, I mean, we're spending 25 and 35% on engineering fees for projects. The aggregate cost is less than $10 million, and we're spending $2 million on design fees. Am I missing something?
No, you are not. The storm design projects are typically engineering services range from anywhere from 10 to 30% per project. If it's a large project, that can go down below 10%. But when you get, and you're doing multiple projects here, so you have to look at them accumulative, there's a lot more interaction. Basically, we're sending survey out on 4 to 6 different projects. So basically, there's individual fees for each one. Stormwater design historically is more expensive because you're making multiple trips out there, dealing with the property owners, working on alignment changes, including dealing with hydraulics. So that amount of design fees is not uncommon.
Okay. As the Prop S money comes in, I mean, we're going to be spending more and more on the ratepayers' money on, addressing stormwater issues. Is there a way to economize? Because I guess my question is, are we as an entity properly prepared to undertake all this work, or is there a different way to reorganize ourselves or reorganize the contracts?
Well, I mean, what we're trying to do is, one is get as many, because if you gave it all at one, they're simply going to hire additional subcontracting work to do it because they're not going to be equipped to overall handle that type of amount of work. So right now, with these 2 contracts, we'll have a total of 6 different design consultants doing approximately the same value of work. So we'll have 6 different consultants that we're managing, designing this type of work. So that's, in other words, that's the best way. In other words, when we did the wastewater program, we hired for regions to do surveying. But this, allows us to tackle more at one time by hiring, and we're able to manage, this will be probably the maximum amount of consultants that we will have at any one time. And we're giving them 2-year contracts and we'll give them additional, so we'll have a rolling group of consultants working on design. I think right now we have like 24 to 30 projects in design. And again, we're just starting the program, so as we move, we'll adapt depending on, obviously it's my goal is to make sure we're spending all the money that's coming in on projects as fast as we can get the projects completed.
To Brian's point, is there a target, a goal that we might want to consider for, what percentage of these funds goes to engineering versus the project work itself? Is there any value in sort of looking at that to see if we can bring that down?
You can look at it that way, but the only thing is it's not, every project is not the same. Even if you average it, I mean, again, what we're looking at here is a total of 25 different projects that all have different aspects to them. Geotechnical project or bank stabilization projects, obviously going to have more intensive geotechnical work that's going to be required for the project. Storm projects may have difficult access with regard to the survey, or a lot of obstacles, a lot of utility relocation and things like that. So it would be difficult, but the range that we're seeing and we're negotiating with these consultants is within the ranges we typically see. I can talk to my design staff and see if there's some type of a document we could pull together that kind of indicates how we develop that cost.
Okay, thank you.
But typically, we do see, it is a larger percentage. I know when I do the budget every year, there's a slide that I present on our engineering design costs, primarily for the sanitary program. When we started the program, it was higher, and then slowly, as we got more efficient at it, the fees have gone down. I don't know that we'll necessarily see that with the STARM program because of the sheer number of projects that we're doing.
Okay, appreciate it.
All right, the next item, I'm not sure if I covered this one now. The stormwater planning. I didn't, okay. Trying to remember where I left off. Thanks for, just yell out if you have a question. I don't want to pass by something. General Service Agreement, stormwater planning. This action appropriates additional funds and authorizes staff to amend a stormwater planning contract. The ordinance authorizes the district to amend the contract for the first of 2 option years with Intuition and Logic. The consultant is providing planning assistance to support the implementation of the district-wide stormwater planning passed by Proposition S. The services will supplement the capacity of my internal planning staff to address flooding and erosion. Tasks include completing preliminary studies for the capital improvement replacement program, updating project prioritization procedures, and evaluating existing identified projects. Projects will be issued by letter agreement, scopes of services. The contracts for a total maximum amount of $1 million. After this amendment, the total appropriation will be $3 million. This is the first of 2 option years for this planning contract. And it's equal to it's actually, hold on here. I'm sorry, I said appropriation of $1 million. It's actually appropriation of $2 million. The appropriation is equal to what was in the CRP. Got an error on my write-up there. Intuition Logic is committed to 18% minority and 13% women with the two firms listed on the board write-up. Next item is a general service agreement for water quality support services. This action appropriates additional funds and authorizes staff to amend a contract with HDR Engineering. This will be the second of two option renewals provided with the original contract based on performance. The purpose of this project is to provide funds annually for water quality and other environmental regulatory support to support the district compliance with environmental laws and regulations. This is a support contract for my environmental group. HDR will attend MDNR, EPA, and other regulatory meetings with MSD, review and comment on draft and proposed environmental regulations and policies, evaluate, interpolate environmental data, and assist district staff with environmental permitting and developing compliance strategies. The scope of this work will be developed for each regulatory issue on an as-needed basis, and the consultant must submit a list of tasks to be performed and the estimated costs, which must be approved by the district prior to proceeding. The contract amount is for $165,000. Appropriation for design services equal that in the budget supplement. This particular project, since all the work is being performed as a direct consultant to my staff, there was no MWB required for this work. And then finally, our only construction item on the agenda today, it's an unplanned introduction and adoption for a ongoing project at our Grand Glaze wastewater treatment facility repair and improvement projects. This appropriates additional funds for a contract under construction by Tarleton Corporation. The work consists of the removal and replacement of clarifier mechanisms for clarifiers 2 and 3, the replacement of windows and doors on the administration building, and concrete repairs at various tanks, channels, and structures. The purpose of this project is to extend the useful life of the existing process tanks, building, and equipment items. This is an unplanned appropriation of $420,000. We are requesting introduction and adoption to keep the project moving forward to address these unforeseen conditions. Some of the conditions include the removal and replacement of pipe and duct banks that were in conflict during the excavation for our clarifier valves. Gate and channel modifications, we had to make some modifications based on what was found, and repairs to some existing leaking pipes and repairs to some electrical duct banks with the addition of access covers near the screen channel and maintenance work. These were items that were not part of the original contract. The supplemental appropriation will bring the current appropriation for construction to $3,920,000. The contractor has a commitment of 37.41% MWB participation, which they're currently meeting. And that is all my agenda items.
All right. Thank you, Rich. Is there any other business? If not, our next tentative meeting date is December 30th, 2025. You have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All right, we are adjourned.
Okay, Trustee Evans will get set up for the Finance Committee meeting and let you know when we're ready.
Okay, we will call to order the 321st meeting of the Finance Committee. Can I get a roll call, please?
Yep, well, record will reflect that all trustees are present. Trustee Wilson in the room, everyone else online.
Can I get a motion to approve the minutes of the November 4th meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All right, thank you. So the next item is the external audit resolution. Clifton Larson Allen.
Good morning, trustees. This proposed resolution that we're asking the trustees to consider will authorize the district to exercise option year 4 of 4 renewal options with Clifton Larson Allen. Clifton Larson Allen provides an independent audit of all accounts and funds of the district and the sub-districts. They also, of course, audit our financial statements. In addition, CLA performs an audit of our defined benefit, defined contribution, and deferred compensation pension plans. We will need to issue an RFP next year for auditing services, but again, this particular resolution is requesting that the board consider the final option year associated with the existing contract. Are there any questions that I can answer? Okay, hearing none, I will move on to the next agenda item, which is our Finance Key Indicators Report. This particular report is through the end of October of 2025. So I will start in the upper right-hand corner of the report. There's a chart there that depicts our forecast of both our wastewater user charges and our stormwater impervious charges. So starting with the stormwater impervious charge, we had budgeted $16.9 million for fiscal year 2026 for that particular revenue source. We're currently projecting that that forecast will be $15.1 million, so it's currently running about $1.8 million unfavorable. With respect to our wastewater user charges, we are forecasting that these charges will be approximately $3.5 million favorable. The bulk of that is our commercial charges are running at about $3.7 million above budget. That's due to additional usage that we're seeing in that commercial sector. Our residential charges are pretty much right at budget. Right now, they're about $100,000 forecasted to be unfavorable. Are there any questions about that particular item? Okay, if not, I will move on to the expenditure forecast, which is the upper left-hand corner of the document. Overall, we're projecting that our budget variance will be $27.7 million favorable. The bulk of that, approximately $14.1 million, is associated with our capital program. We budgeted $567.4 million. We are forecasting that we will spend approximately $553 million. Our operating budget is also forecasted to be under budget by approximately $12.7 million. And our debt service budget is right at what we're targeting here, which is we budgeted $275.8 million. We're projected to spend approximately $275 million. So again, overall, the budget variance is approximately $28 million favorable. Okay. The next item I will cover is the chart in the lower left-hand corner, which depicts our projections associated with our debt service coverage ratios. The chart depicts that we are exceeding those targets that were in our last rate proposal. In addition, we are exceeding the requirements of our bond covenants, which require that we have coverage of 1.25 for senior debt and 1.15 coverage for all debt, senior and subordinate debt. We're currently forecasting that we'll hit a target of 4.0 for our senior debt and 2.4 times coverage for all-in debt. And then the final chart that I will cover is in the lower right-hand corner of the document. This particular chart shows our total delinquencies and our average collection period. We target a 45-day collection period. We've been we've been experiencing approximately 59-day collection period. I do anticipate that collection period will improve once we start implementing shutoffs. So that should bring us back down to that average collection target of 45 days. That target actually assumes shutoff. So that's kind of why we run a little bit above that target. In terms of our total account delinquencies, again, this particular number that I'm going to give you is total delinquencies since the district was formed in 1954. So we're at approximately $121 million. About 2/3 of that is actual service charges. The remaining 1/3 of that amount would be additional items such as late fees, collection charges, lien fees, those types of expenditures that we incur. Are there any questions that I can answer regarding the document? Okay, if not, I
Real
will.
quickly,
I'm sorry, Trustee
Barry?
Wabi, please go ahead.
sorry, I thought he was asking questions. Since we announced in the press that there was a discussion of the shutoff, of potentially shutting off service, have we seen any movement in some of those larger collection items?
Not really. I don't think we're going to actually see that until we actually start engaging people and have contracts in place with the water utilities to actually perform shutoffs. I think we'll see some movement there when we start sending out shutoff notices.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I will turn it over to Tim.
All right, thank you, Marion. I have the next couple of items. The first one I want to talk about is an opportunity to refund some certain outstanding bonds. So this presentation is going to explain the bonds we're refunding, the way this transaction is expected to work. I am proposing this as a direct purchase instead of a market transaction, so we'll talk about that a little bit. But on the next page, we'll look at the bonds that are targets of the refunding. These are the oldest senior bonds we have outstanding. And so I'm going to start with the 2010Bs. These are $85 million taxable wastewater system revenue bonds issued as part of the Build America Bond Program. So in 2009, after the Great Recession, or whatever you want to call it, 2008, this program was created to stimulate the economy, create jobs. Rates were high, so you can see these carry a high coupon, 5.856%, but the federal government, in order to entice municipal borrowers to invest in projects, offered a subsidy of 35%, which was essentially supposed to make these more similar to tax-exempt rates. But just a few years after issuance, they started sequestering or reducing the amount of the subsidy. So currently, the subsidy is reduced by 5.7%. So we're getting 94.3% of the subsidy. That's about almost $100,000 annual reduction in the subsidy. And the reason that these haven't, despite the high rate, the reason these have not been prepaid is because the prepay conditions for these bonds are very different than our typical senior bonds. Normally, we have a 10-year call rate, and so at 10 years, the bonds are prepayable at no penalty. These are structured with a make-whole payment, and so in order to prepay these, we'd actually have to discount all future cash flows at Treasury rate plus some spread, and so that makes them more expensive to pay off. And through most of the life of these bonds, there was not a savings opportunity to do this. The last couple of years, there have been more opportunities, and we're seeing in the market a lot of issuers who issued these are actually refunding these. And so we're looking to get in on that action. These bonds also have a reserve fund of about 10%, so $8.5 million. We've talked about reserve funds a little bit. We've not had to issue bonds with reserve funds since 2014, but the bonds, senior bonds that we issued prior to that do, and these are a portion of the bond proceeds set aside in an account really for the benefit of the investors. So it's protection for them. They cannot be used, they can be used to essentially to pay off the bonds. So usually we would hold them and wait till the end of life of the bonds. But all bonds we're going to talk about today are the last 3 remaining series that we have with reserve funds. And so if the plan would be to actually release these funds to pay off a portion of these bonds so we could issue less bond proceeds, and that's where actually the savings is coming from. The next one is the 2012A. These bonds looked more like our typical bonds. This was a $225 million issuance in 2012. There's less than $4 million still outstanding. Everything else has been refunded. The reason these weren't refunded previously is because the coupons are quite a bit lower than the 5% that's normal. So these were probably more retail bonds, 2.75% to 3.125%. Reserve is 10% of what's outstanding, so just under $400,000. And then the 2012B bonds were a refunding series of $141.7 million issued in 2012. There's only $940,000 of those left outstanding. The rate on that is 2.75%. So if we go to the next page, you can just kind of see what those bonds look like. Here are the maturities and the coupons on these bond issuances, so we don't actually have any principal payments due till 2030, and the bulk of them are 2035 to 2039 in those 2010 Build America bonds. BABs is what we call them for short. And so what a refunding could look like, well, if I go to the next page, the principal that I just showed you with interest, in the first column, we owe about $130 million in debt and interest on those 3 bond series. A restructuring, and this isn't set in stone, we're still moving some things around and negotiating with the bank, but if we were to kind of match maturities, we could issue, to take care of that $90 million of principal, issue $77 million of bonds, about $44 million of interest, would put total debt service at $121 million, so we'd have a little over $8.5 million of savings overall with the refunding based on rates, just at the end of last week when we kind of put this together. There are a number of years where there, instead of savings, it would actually increase the interest expense a little bit by a few $100,000. On the $150+ million of debt service we do every year, this is not a big number, and we have done some significant refundings recently that still are going to keep total debt service well below what we'd forecast, for example, in the rate proposal. So not a rate impact from this either. The savings is mostly on the back end, but $8.5 million, when for the most of the life of these bonds we didn't have an opportunity for savings, is significant. Next page, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on loan terms, but these are going to be senior lien bonds. They're really going to have the same terms as our other senior lien bonds. One note will be that when we get rid of the bonds with the make-whole payment, we'll replace them with bonds that have more of our typical call structure, so there will be another opportunity to refund these for savings before these bonds end. The next page, we'll look at just some of the financial terms. So we've got some estimates on what the 2025 C will look like. There's a $77 million of par again, and that'd come with a $10 million premium. Also, we'd release the almost $9 million of reserves, and that's how we would reduce the amount overall that we're borrowing. Remember, the BABs, we're going to have to pay some discount in form of future interest that's due as well, which is unusual. If we issued today, we estimate the true interest cost, that's what TIC stands for, would be about 3.6%. The final maturity of these bonds is 2039. That is not, matches the bonds that are being refunded, so we're not looking to extend. We do not do that when we refund bonds. We don't look to extend maturities. All the savings is natural from less proceeds and/or lower yields on the bonds that we issue. Cost of issuance right now looks like it'll come in at under $250,000, and present value savings, I have 7% here. That was on the refunding bonds. I should put that really in terms of the refunded bonds, but closer to 6.5% is the present value savings. So that other column, the ordinance parameters, this is what will be built into the ordinance. So we will not execute this transaction if these terms don't match. So we're looking for, the biggest one really is the present value savings. I wouldn't do this unless we had more than a 4% present value savings. But we also put some caps on just cost of issuance and on the estimated rate, although really that's going to be kind of factored into the present value savings. So these bonds have not been priced yet. We can't do that until after board approval. So market is moving, and one of the factors that we need to look at, normally we're concerned kind of with what the MMD market looks like compared to the bonds outstanding. Because we are discounting those 2010 bonds back at a treasury rate plus spread, we also have to be concerned on what the treasury rates are, and not just the absolute rates, but the difference between those rates and the tax-exempt rates, the MMD rates, because we were paying off taxable bonds with tax-exempt bonds, and I'll talk about that a little bit on the, it is on the next page, but we care about that spread. So a few points on this bond. This is a direct purchase with Morgan Stanley is what we're proposing. We had a couple banks pitch us on this. We could do a market transaction. There could be a little bit more savings if we were able to execute a market transaction in the same time frame we could execute this transaction, but we can't execute a market transaction as quickly. The direct purchase allows us a much quicker execution because we're negotiating with one bank. We don't have to do an OS. We don't have to market this to broad array of banks, but there's also lower cost of issuance. The extra cost from a direct purchase comes from a spread that the bank issues. So I had PFM, our municipal advisor, look at this last week. Again, if we could do this on the same time frame as the market transaction, we might save roughly $600,000 more by doing a market transaction. But if we allow more time, we also risk losing some of these savings. And so if the ratio of tax-exempt rates to taxable rates change just by, say, 2%, and there's been a much bigger range than that over the last year, then we could lose all of that savings. So what I'm proposing is that we move quickly on this. We did have two banks bid, so we are comfortable that the transaction we're proposing here is fair and competitive. We're also planning to intro and adopt this at the next board meeting, again, so that we can get move quickly on the transaction. The parameters that I mentioned on the previous page will only execute the deal if all of those parameters match, all of them. And then what I was talking about, the ratio between the MMD, which is the tax-exempt base rate, and U.S. Treasuries. Currently, the 10-year tax-exempt rate is about 68% of the Treasury rate. 10-year average, that's been closer to 83%. Over the last year or two, I've seen it in the 70s. It's been, I think it's even maybe been below 60, so it moves around quite a bit. Those rates do not move always in tandem, at least not exactly. They tend to drift together, but there's gaps in time. And then Fed is moving rates. We're getting, well, I would say we're getting economic data out that could change rates, but we're actually not getting economic data because the Fed is not issuing a lot of it right now. So there's some things these are some of the factors that make me want to move quickly to get this done while we can and while the savings is there. And then I mentioned this before, but there's potential future savings since the new bonds will be issued with a 10-year call date, which is prior to the final maturity, so there'll be another opportunity to refund these bonds for savings in the future. It's a little bit more complicated transaction than when we do a typical, and we're typically refunding tax-exempt bonds with new tax-exempt bonds. But there is an opportunity here. I know that's a lot of details quickly. Are there any questions or concerns that I can address? I also have our bond counsel here who may be able to answer some questions too if there are any.
Of course, I have a question or two.
Good.
Actually, one is more academic. How did we issue taxable debt? I mean, what were the proceeds in 2010 used for that required us to issue taxable debt, or was that a function of the BABS program that they were taxable?
It was a function of the BABS program. The 2010s were issued before I was here, so I wasn't involved in the discussion. But my guess is that the rates available at that time in the tax-exempt market were not better than what we could get from this taxable issuance with the subsidy.
With the subsidy?
With the subsidy. So the issue, or an issue, is that the subsidy has been reduced for most of the life of these bonds. And that's really one of the things that gives us an opportunity to refinance this for savings. There's a clause in the ordinance that allows for a better rate potentially if we claim that there's been an action that impacts the, I'm trying to look for the right term, well, it's a subsidy. We'll talk about this actually a little bit in a little bit in closed session. But there's two different ways that we can look at refunding these, and so we're choosing the one that has the higher benefit, but that's driven by from the fact that the subsidy's been reduced, and that's the same issue that others that have refunded these have drawn on. So.
And there's no problem. I'm going back 30 years, 20 years on taxable bonds, but there's no, whatever the proceeds were used for that was a taxable purpose 10 years or 15 years ago, there's no problem refunding these or refinancing these with tax exempt.
No, the proceeds were used for capital projects, just like our tax-exempt bonds were. We can issue taxable bonds whenever we want to finance projects. It's always a function of economically which makes more sense, where the rates are better. Typically, that's tax-exempt yields, and they benefit us. There's a discount because we don't have to, well, I shouldn't say there's a discount. The tax-exempt bonds are structured differently, so yields are usually lower there than we would get on
right, but
taxable rates.
But the proceeds can be used, taxable rates have, bonds have different, I think.
Right, there are limits on taxable financings. You're right, taxable bonds could be, but we only use these proceeds for the same thing that we used tax-exempt proceeds for. The only thing that we borrow for is for capital project work or refundings.
So there's no private benefit, and that's why.
Okay. No, there's not.
And then I guess you're going to ask us to approve at the next meeting the bond purchase agreement, basically give you the flexibility to
correct.
Close the deal.
Yes, within the parameters that have been defined here.
Right. And that's next Thursday.
That's next Thursday, yes. And then our intention is to close this by the end of the month.
Oh, good. Cool. All right. That's all I had.
Okay. Any other questions? All right. And then I've got one more item. It's the operating fund portfolio that we look at every month. A few changes here. You can go to the next one. That's just the detail sheet. Thank you. So par amount is $622 million. That's a $36 million reduction from last month. That's mostly driven by the fact that we had our senior bond interest payments due on November 1st. I'm starting in the upper left, sorry. The yield to maturity on our portfolio is about 4.10. That's down only 2 basis points from last month. The benchmark is down 9 basis points. Where market is expecting another Fed rate cut. Market rates have been drifting a little bit lower. Weighted average maturity ours continues to hover at a little bit under a year, while the benchmark is closer to 2 years. That is typical since we have use of our funds. Over in the upper right-hand side, a little bit of movement here too. So we are cutting the commercial paper pretty close. Our limit's only 25%. We were just under that a month ago, so created some room there. The commercial paper and Fed agency bond note amounts are down about 5% each, and that's all in the Treasury notes. Some of that is because we've extended out maturities just a little bit. The weighted average maturity of our portfolio is 89% of a year. It was about 80% last month. In the bottom left, fund summary, most of that 36 million is all on the operations side, and that's where the bulk of the weighted average maturity is too. So we've extended out a little just to match some future debt service payments in future years. The maturity distribution, not really big swings here either. So the 0 to 1 year was close to 69% last month. It's now at 68. Our 1 to 2 year maturity is up about 2% from just over 20 to almost 22.5. Then the 2 to 3 years, so that's where we extended. 2 to 3 years is down about 1% from a little over 10 to a little over 9. And the benchmark maturity looks pretty much the same, just about 1 to 1.5 points swing in each of those. So nothing to be concerned about here. We are within our policy limits, and everything is going well. Any questions on the operating fund portfolio? All right, that's all we have for this meeting. Thank you.
Okay, our next meeting is December 30, 2025. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So
So
moved.
moved. Second.
Second.
All right, Trustee Nicholas, and we'll get things turned around here and ready for stakeholders.
Okay, good morning. Welcome to the Stakeholder Relations Committee meeting. Roll call by the chair.
All right, record will reflect that all trustees are present.
All righty, there are no comments by the chair. Can I get approval of committee meeting minutes, November 4th, 2025?
So
moved.
moved.
Thank you. Now we have a discussion by Todd Oshbacher regarding a resolution for third-party claims administration services. Todd?
Good morning, trustees. Thank you, Trustee Nicholas. And all I have this morning is resolution number 3988, which will be on the board's December meeting agenda. This resolution will authorize the district to exercise its option for the second option renewal year of our contract with Thomas McGee LLC. Thomas McGee provides claims administration services to the district. They handle our water backup claims, all of our liability claims, workers' compensation, auto, errors and omissions, and any other claim that might be filed against the district. So this resolution will allow us to extend that contract by another year. There are 2 additional option years following this year. So the contract was originally authorized in 2023. That's all I have. Any questions on that? If not, thank you very much.
Thank you, Todd. Now I need a motion and a second to go into closed session to discuss legal actions, causes of action, or litigation under section 610.021.1 RSMO.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All right, we'll do a roll call vote. Trustee Kistner?
Aye.
Trustee Wabi?
Aye.
Trustee Watson?
Yes.
Trustee Evans?
Yes.
Trustee Nicholasison?
Yes.
And Trustee Wilson? All right, we're in closed session.
See, Nick, is this in? We're live again, and we can come out of closed session.
Okay. I need a motion and a second to come out of closed session.
So moved.
So moved.
All right,
We're
all in
out of
favor?
Closed session.
Oh, that works for me.
Yes.
Oh.
All right,
Next
we're back in
tentative
open
meeting
session.
date- Okay, next tentative meeting date will be Tuesday, December 30th, 2025. Motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you very much. Everyone have a good day.
Yeah, have a great day, trustees. Thank
Thank you
you.
all.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, you too.
Bye-bye.